Chapter 2. A View Apiece. Rush woke up early the next morning. The blue jays woke him up. He, who could sleep through the metallic thundering of ash cans and the honking of taxis, was startled out of sleep by the jeering mew of the blue jays in the Norway spruce outside his window. The room was strange in the daylight. There was a carved marble mantel over the fireplace with a cherub's head in the middle that looked like Henry VIII as a baby. But on top of the mantel there were some of his books, his clock, the socks he had taken off last night, and the World's Fair Savings Bank with nothing in it but 2 aspirins, which he had dropped in there once when he was sick and was supposed to take them and didn't. And there was a little brown photograph of his mother. The sight of these possessions made him feel at home, and so did Isaac at the foot of his bed. Rush got up, and Isaac hopped down, and they both went over to the window to look out. At first they couldn't see anything but the tangled needles of the Norway spruce beside the window. The rain had stopped hours ago, but now a heavy mist rose up from the earth and obscured the valley. After a while, as Rush watched, a tree swam into view, looking pale and ghostly, then another, and another. The mist was lifting, and it was going to be a good day. The air was full of the sound of dripping, and the cries of jays, and another sound, a rushing, pouring one. "Gosh, I believe it's a brook!" exclaimed Rush. "Why didn't Father say there was a brook? Come on, Isaac, let's go see." With more stealth than necessary, Rush peered out into the empty hall, closed the door noiselessly behind him, and tiptoed down the stairs. A warm, hopeful smell of coffee seeped out of the kitchen. That meant that Cuffy was up already. "Pretend it's the headquarters of a German general," Rush whispered to Isaac. "His orderly is making coffee. We've been concealed in the rafters all night, intercepting code messages. To be discovered means certain death." Crouched like an Indian, silent as a panther, Rush reached the big front door and opened it. He and Isaac stepped out, free men. The air was moist and mild. Veils and plumes of mist drifted by like the finest smoke. Wet drops fell on Rush's head, and cold, wet leaves clung to the soles of his bare feet. He couldn't stop smelling the air in great, deep, loud sniffs. It was so delicious. It smelled of water and mud and maple trees and autumn. Isaac found smells to his own taste, too, a fragrance of squirrels and field mice and moles, with a faint, intoxicating hint of skunk. He trotted to and fro, zigzagging from side to side, doubling back, snuffing and pausing with his tail quivering, and twigs caught in his ear fringes. Rush walked in the direction of the roaring sound, but from time to time he found it necessary to stop and examine some new object of interest. There was a summer house, for one thing, with cast-iron trellis walls, and a half-rotted floor full of leaves. And there was a sycamore tree with a cave in its trunk more than big enough for Rush and Isaac, a good place to come and think in. There were also 2 iron deer who looked as though they had been frozen in a mood of disapproval. The roaring grew louder and louder. And then, between lifting mist veils, Rush saw the brook. At one point it was a broad brown stream gliding smoothly in its course, and at the next it had turned into a little torrent, brawling and hustling down between the rocks in a cascade, and breaking below into snowy eddies and cups of foam. Rush stood at the edge of the little cataract and watched it. A very valuable thing to have right in your own backyard. He felt extremely proud of it. Then he walked to the point above it where the water was held in a clear, brimming brown pool. At the bottom he could see the turning sand like brown sugar, lacy filaments of leaves, twigs with rotted bark, and stones with moss on them. He dipped his right big toe into the pool, and the cold spread upward through his leg in a little electric shock.